You ever sat back and notice how the people who drain you the most are usually the ones you keep letting in? We tell ourselves it's just one more favor, one more sacrifice, one more late night for someone else. But let me tell you something. If you don't set boundaries, life will definitely set them for you. And the price of burnout is usually your peace. Welcome back to the Built from Broken podcast. I'm your host, Myrnalena, and today we're diving into something I know all too well, and I'm sure all of you know well about it too. Choosing between boundaries or burnout. Because let's be real, when you don't decide, your body, your mind, and your soul will definitely decide for you. About boundaries or burnout. There was a point in my life where I looked in the mirror and couldn't even tell you who was staring back at me. I didn't know what I loved. I didn't know my why. I couldn't figure out my purpose. I had lost myself in the chaos of trying to care for everyone else, even people who didn't care enough to take care of themselves. And while I was drowning, I kept pretending I was okay. I wore the mask well, but inside I was falling apart. And honestly, I blame myself. Who else can I blame? The truth is, I said yes to everyone. I still do sometimes, even to people who would rather see me fall than rise. But the truth is, the funny thing about me is, I prove them wrong every single time. I've had moments where burnout wasn't just about being tired, it almost cost me my life. And I've cried more nights than I could even count. But deep down, I knew I deserved something different. I deserved for the fight of my life. And that fight was fighting for my damn self for once. The burnout cost me opportunities. It stained my reputation. It left me embarrassed by choices I made while running on empty. But it also taught me something priceless, that no one gets access to my life if they never give a shit about it. That was my first boundary that stuck. When I finally honored it, when I finally honored me, when I began to notice me again. Now, my non negotiable is simple. I will never go back to anything or anyone that didn't make me feel good. I will never let someone reroute my thinking or twist me back into the version of myself I fought so hard to climb out of. That's how I built boundaries. And that's how I stay standing. Because without them, it only left me burned out. And that's the me I never want to become again. But you got to understand the pros and cons in life, people. The same things you shell out are the same things that people might receive from you. So you have to look at things from both sides of the fence. If you really want to heal, if you really want to build a better version of you, you have to look at all aspects. You can't just point the finger and not expect there to be some type of rebuttal because we are not all perfect. But we must build boundaries before we burn out. So if we are going to look at our reflections back then, we have to change them, rebuild them anew, and become the better versions of ourselves. Knowing what the Built from Broken podcast entails and trying to help the betterment of everybody by, of course, putting myself out there to be the example on trying to heal from all aspects, especially from the aspect of me. Here are a couple of questions that I've asked myself that maybe it could help you self reflect. Question one: why do you keep on saying yes when your whole body is telling you no? Question two: who is it that benefits from your burnout? Question three: what would change if you started protecting your energy the same way that you protect the energy of your loved ones? And last but not least, If saying no makes you lose people, then you have to ask yourself, were they ever really in your corner to begin with? Once you self reflect on some of those questions, you know that we also have strength tools. It's usually the mirror method, but for this episode, we're going to do the boundary script. And the boundary script is identifying the request that drains you the most. Replace the word sorry with thank you for understanding. So replace the word sorry with thank you for understanding. So I will give you an example of what I mean. Instead of sorry, I can't say that, or sorry, I can't do that, say thank you for understanding, but I'm unable to do that right now. Setting a boundary for yourself. Say it out loud until it feels natural. And continue to practice these things, because understand that things don't happen overnight. As much as we would love to just put something in our mind and run with it, sometimes things don't work like that. But set those boundaries up for yourself and use it in real life. And then document how you feel and go from there and make the progress that you need to build a boundary for yourself to move forward. And also write down how people respond, how people interact with you. How do they interact with the change of you? Because everything is not always peaches and cream in life. You would expect people to embrace you for the changes you make, but I've learned on this journey that the most negativity comes from when you want to be a better person. Okay, everybody has a right to feel how they want to feel, but the greatest thing about that is that they don't have to have access in your life to do so. So creating some journal prompts for this episode: what situations or people trigger my burnout the fastest? What kind of people trigger my burnout the fastest? For this other journal prompt, you can write down, where in my life do I feel resentment because I didn't set a boundary? And that's a real big one, because a lot of people don't set boundaries and become bitter, but the mirror is the one you should be bitter with, if you're being honest. Another journal prompt is, what's one boundary I can set this week that protects my peace? Because this is all about protecting your peace. Another journal prompt is, how do I want people to treat me when I say no? And that's a big one. That's the test. That's when you're going to see what people, or should I say, what you allow people to do in your life. And you're going to see how quick the doors open for people to exit your life. And that's okay. Just the same way that people may set boundaries on the other end, and you may have been exited from their life. I may have been exited from their life, and that's fine, because we are not always meant for everybody, just like everybody's not always meant for us. Listen, burnout is expensive. It costs you your peace, it costs you your health, and sometimes your relationships. Boundaries, they're free, but they require courage. So the choice is yours. You can keep pouring from an empty cup, or finally lock the door to guard your peace and your energy. And remember, boundaries don't push people away, they keep the right ones close. Thank you for joining the Built from Broken podcast this week for episode 6, Boundaries or Burnout. Thank you and have a good day.